Tell me about New York.
New York was when I was in my. I've always been very brave, and even when I was scared, the bravery thing goes back. My dad is a super dad. He's a loving dad, like a super. But he was a hitter.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a hitter. So as a kid, we had to fight. Me and all my friends, my circle of friends, we were nerds, man. We were into Star Wars toys. We were into toy soldiers. We were into like running around with toy guns, playing fucking army. Like we were fucking nerds. We were into sports, man. We were into fucking Indiana Jones. And every time these tough kids hanging around near Mary's Corner store, smoking Players Light cigarettes and playing pinball, they would always want to beat us up.
Yeah.
And I was always the kid. Out of all my group, I was the only one that would fight. But the crazy thing was, but I was scared shitless. But I don't know why I stepped up to bat to fight them. And the craziest thing was, knock on wood, I'd always win.
Right.
I don't know how. And I'd always win by sheer luck. But there was a funny thing that sort of was a byproduct from always defeating these big, scary bullies. Was that every time I ever wanted to do something in life, I would get that same feeling like, oh no, it's stand-up comedy, I'm afraid.
Right.
And so I'd overcome that fear, the same fear as I fight the big kids, and I would go do it. And when I had to pull it off, I would get this incredible feeling like, oh my God, I did it. And so that always, every time there was ever anything that I had a fantasy about, I would just do it. Mm-hmm. And I would just face the bully. The bully was the fear of it.
Right.
And I would just pull it off. So my big fear was moving to New York. And so stupidly, I moved to New York with a girlfriend that I had at the time. And she goes, I want to live in New York too. And so we moved to Manhattan with no money, no green card, no bank account, no connections, and no way around the place. But I had this complex that it was destiny. I was going to stay in New York and be a New York artist. I was crazy brave, even though I was scared shitless.
So you get part of that right, for sure, yeah.
It was part of that complex. I thought if I could overcome, but I never, it was part of that complex.
Yeah.
And we lived for an entire month in the YMCA. We depleted all of our money.
Right.
And we were down to enough money to buy a Snickers bar. And we had just gone to go see an apartment. And the realtor gave me shit and said, don't waste my fucking time. You can't afford this place. Why have me come down here and waste my time? And I felt really embarrassed and really humiliated. And it just so happens, I was wearing a sculpture jacket that I made that day, and I had my portfolio under my arms. Mm-hmm. Now, this is one of those New York miracles that happened to me.
Okay.
And I turned to my girlfriend and I said to her, well, it looks like we're not going to siege the castle. And at that moment, a crazy man was walking down the street singing out loud. And I said to her, do you notice the way there's always crazy people singing out loud in New York? Suddenly, this guy grabs me and goes, wow, that's an amazing jacket. I told him, I'm an artist and I made it. And he pulled us into a cafe and was looking through my portfolio. My beautiful brown leather portfolio, which I still have to this day. And he goes, and I told him my dilemma, and he goes, no, man, it's destiny. You're going to stay in New York City. And I said, that's impossible because we're out of money. And he goes, do you know who David Rockefeller is? I said, Rockefeller Center? He goes, yes. David Rockefeller. I work directly for David Rockefeller. And I want you to trust me. I want you to lend me this portfolio. If Mr. Rockefeller likes your work, we're going to get an apartment for you and pay first and last month's rent and put it in our name. The very next morning, we got a call from the people at YMCA. There's someone down on the phone wants to talk to you. I got on there. It was James. Christian, Diane, get your stuff on and meet me at this corner. We're going apartment hunting. They got an apartment for me.
Get the fuck out of here.
22nd and 3rd Avenue. Paid for by David Rockefeller himself.
That's fucking crazy.
Ba-boom-ba! That was
Did you ever meet him?
This is how I met him. Watch.
All right.
I went to one time.
Watch it, you're off the camera.
Oh, it's okay. So what happened was I stayed in there for about 7 months, and then I scored a loft in Lower Manhattan, which I wanted to turn into a gallery. So I was told to go to Mr. Rockefeller's house to get some money. And it was on 72nd and 3rd Avenue or something. No, it was on 72nd Street East, I think. Or near the Cafe Carlisle. Something like that. And it's all brownstones. You know the way like in Sesame Street? But what you don't know is there's like 5 or 6 of them and they're all secretly connected as one big house.
Yeah,
but you wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
And I remember going up to the door, and the door opens, and it's all security guards and shit, like CIA type people.
Right.
And there he was at the end of the hallway, and he went like this. And then James Hines comes down the hallway and hands me an envelope. So his nod was all I ever got from the guy.
No fucking way.
From here to where the kitchen is. No, a little further away from that. That's it. So he knew I was. Maybe guys like this, when they see artists or people they believe in, it's their little way of giving back. Like, well, every now and then, you're going to help this guy. And that's it. So, paid first and last month's rent for the fucking apartment, and then paid the first month's rent for the loft, which I turned into the 4E gallery.
Holy shit.
So there are miracles. There are gods out there that will touch you on the nose. But you got to want it. You gotta say, I believe a snowflake's gonna land on my tongue, and you go, nah. But only because I was so brave, and I knew it was my destiny. But nowadays,
dude,
I would never do that now.
Yeah,
I'd be like, am I fucking nuts? I don't have any money in my bank account.
For every one of you guys that can have that story, and by the way, the grand total of that count is 1.
Well, first off, I gotta say, even your friend wouldn't get an apartment for you.
No.
With David Rockefeller,
Right.
one of the 5th most powerful people on the planet.
Right.
This is not a real diamond. What are the chances of that? It almost was it was almost like a fucking destiny. Now I don't believe in predestined.
Right.
But I believe in the machine gun theory.
Okay.
In life,
Shoot enough of them and a few will hit.
yeah, a lot of people do this in life, and that's why I'm not getting anywhere. It's because you're doing this.
Bang.
Me, I believe in fucking getting out my Thompson machine gun. Oh, I got it 4 or 5 times. Fucking get out your MG42. 1,200 rounds a minute. That's the way I go.
That'll do it for this episode of the AVB Podcast. Don't forget you can subscribe to our full audio episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you find your audio podcasts. The full episodes, highlights, and our live off-the-floor performance videos can be found at our YouTube channel, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the AVB Podcast. Of course, you'll find links to our incredible sponsors and this week's guest in the description below. The AVB Podcast is part of the Border City Network. Find more great content at bordercitynetwork.com. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.